Hi there. So you've probably seen me around on social media, but this is my first time putting my face out here and introducing myself. My name is Lena Sutherland, and I am the person behind Presbyterian Pew. So I just wanted to come on here and get started. I've been wanting for a long time to do some kind of video series to talk about some things. It's so hard to know where to start. There's so much to talk about. And so I kept procrastinating just for lack of knowing what to start with, where to begin. So here we go. We're just jumping in. I just want to state up front that I don't have any particular credentials. I'm not seminary trained. I don't have a degree in counseling. I'm not a licensed therapist. I don't really have any special certifications that make me an expert here in religion or the BCO or the PCA. What I do have, though, is just I've been in the PCA for over 40 years. Multiple generations of my family have helped to plant PCA churches. Growing up with a dad who was an elder, is now an elder emeritus. Brother was a deacon, husband was a deacon, brother is still a deacon at a new church. So just lots of personal connections, and kind of was interested in the BCO more from the nerdy side of things. And then became more interested with an additional perspective as I began to hear about and talk with and be involved with folks who are experiencing abuse and experiencing firsthand what it looks like to go through an ecclesiastical trial, a church trial, and how the BCO actually plays out in real time in those situations. So again, I'm not an expert on the BCO, but I'm pretty good at collecting and assembling information and explaining it in a way that makes sense to people. And so that's really what my goal is with the Presbyterian Pew is, the Book of Church Order, the BCO, is fairly complex. And so part of what I want to do is to help people understand the BCO itself. And what does that mean? And, what do these different chapters talk about or require? But then the flip side is, okay, so that's the BCO in theory, but what actually happens in practice? What happens when there's a church trial? What happens when someone's brought up on charges, or there's a complaint, or there's an appeal? And so there's kind of two sides to the Presbyterian Pew, and I've begun to refer to those as polity on paper and polity in practice. And so I'll be sharing some ideas that I have in the works for the polity on paper and the polity in practice. The first part, polity on paper, it is already in the works on the Presbyterian Pew website, presbyterianpew.org. We have one online course that's live now. It's free. All you have to do is create a user registration on the website. And this will walk you through, it's basically like BCO 101. It's very, very basic. It makes no assumptions about prior knowledge. So, if you say, gosh, I feel a little overwhelmed, I don't know if I know enough to even understand it, this course is for you. This course is definitely not going to get you to the level of like what an officer would need to pass an ordination exam or anything like that. It's meant for the person who has zero background knowledge. Currently working on another online course, which would be the second in the series, that will talk about the rules of discipline, which is the second section of the Book of Church Order. And that's the part that people often have questions about. That's the part that addresses all of the things that happen in a church trial for the most part. So that will be the second course. The third course, which I hope I can have done before June, is a course that will overview what happens at General Assembly. And General Assembly is the annual meeting of all of the churches or representatives from all of the churches in our denomination that happens once a year. And that's where, if you hear about things like overtures and amendments and all that, that's where a lot of that action happens. I'm kind of excited personally because General Assembly is happening in my hometown this year in Richmond, Virginia. And so I plan to be there. I'm very interested to sit in and listen to the Overtures Committee. And in the past, I've watched General Assembly on live stream, but the Overtures Committee is not something that's live streamed. So being there in person will be my first opportunity to observe the inner workings of the Overtures Committee. So I hope to be able to, get those courses ready so that you can kind of get the vocabulary down and understand how these things work, and then also to be tracking some of the overtures. For example, you've probably seen a lot of conversation right now going on about background checks, and there are a couple of different overtures in the works about background checks. So I'd like to be able to come on here and just chat with you about what are the different ways that people are approaching that, what are some of the potential concerns or objections people might have to some of those overtures, what's likely to happen with those overtures, and then to help you track them once we get to the time of General Assembly.